Hello and welcome to Pop of Passion. Join me, Jax Barker, comedian and highly sensitive person, along with a guest every other week as we delve into our deepest passions, from being a plant dad to conquering insecurity with comedy. If you relish the memory of an unexpected late-night conversation with a stranger about their obscure passion, the kind where you have tears in your eyes one second and are doubled over laughing the next, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Pop of Passion. I'm Jax Barker and I'm so glad you're here. My guest today has a PhD in Jersey Shore Studies from the University of Chicago. He is the writer of Vulture's legendary Real Housewives recaps, as well as instant New York Times bestseller, The Housewives, the real story behind the Real Housewives. Please welcome the president and founder of the Real Housewives Institute, Brian J Moylan.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm good.
Awesome. I am very excited to talk to you. I'm such a fan. I've been reading your recaps for years. And I love when you, like, in the Roni, that's my favorite one, when you do the Jill stuff at the end, like, classic. So good.
It's very divisive. A lot of people don't like it.
No.
But I think that I think coming up in the future, Jill is going to get retired. I think we're done. We'll see. I'll find something new. We'll think of something new and exciting for the fans.
Yeah, I love that. So, Brian, what is your passion?
I am very passionate about gift wrapping.
Nice. How did you get into gift wrapping?
So when I first moved to New York in like 2005, I had a really shitty job working for a company that did diet and fitness websites for like fitness gurus, like what's her name? Jillian Michaels and Denise Austin, like those people. And it was kind of awful, and it also didn't pay very well. So I was going to get a holiday seasonal job. And I said, oh, maybe I should become a gift wrapper. And a friend of mine was like, you can't be a gift wrapper. You're too sloppy to do that. Like no one would hire you to be a gift wrapper. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll show you. So I went to this store. It was called Kate's Papery. It's no longer with us. It was like a very fancy paper, stationery, like pens, gift wrap kind of store. And they had several outposts in New York, including one near my house. This one was on 57th Street, right next to the Russian Tea Room, the home of the very first Real Housewives of New York reunion.
Yes.
And so I applied there, and the manager and I kind of hit it off. And I was like, I know the basics, but I don't really know how to gift wrap. And she's like, oh, we'll teach you everything you need to know. So I was like, great. So I started working there on the weekends for Christmas, and they taught me everything I did need to know, like all sorts of different ways to wrap presents and tie ribbons and do fun things with like folding and pleats and origami and different papers and stuff like that. And so, so I just got like really into it. And even after I finished working there, I only did it for a couple years. And then I did like a wrapping tutorial on Gawker when I worked there. And I've done some different how-tos, or I would go and either wrap gifts for charity or for different, a couple years ago in New York, there was a little shopping center and they had a gift wrap. Like if you bought anything here, you could get a gift wrap. And so I did that, and they paid me to do that. So I just do fun gift wrapping things, as well as wrapping all of my own gifts, etc., for friends and family. So, yeah.
That's lovely. I like that you have, it's tactical. It's something you do.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite part is that you did it out of spite. I can relate to that. I do things out of spite all the time. I had an ex who told me I couldn't do stand-up. Now I do stand-up. It's like, don't tell me I can't do it, because I'm going to show you. you know?
Yes, and that's exactly what I did. Yeah, and I will say my friend isn't wrong. I am kind of a sloppy person. I'm not especially detail oriented, but when it comes to gift wrapping, I'm very precise.
Yeah.
Take a lot of time to do it. Sometimes I could take like if I really want to go all out, I could take an hour to do it. And I think that as a writer, I'm making things, I'm being
Mhm.
creative, but you're not making like a thing, it's just kind of like words on the page. So it's nice to have an object
Yeah.
where I made this, I did this. And also people always get the gifts and they're like, oh, I don't want to unwrap it, I don't want to ruin it. And to me that's like part of the fun, is that it's like a mandala, like the
Yeah.
Buddhist monks have, like, it's beautiful and then it goes away. And so
Yeah.
we have it, we remember it, but then it's also transient, like everything in life.
That is beautiful. I love that
Yeah.
sentiment. Wow. I read, I was doing some research. You also judged, or you wrote about a gift wrapping competition?
Yeah, I went to a gift wrapping competition, Scotch, the tape brand.
Yeah.
Every year in New York, they do a gift wrapping competition in New York City. And so I went, I brought a videographer, made a little video, and yeah, they do it. It's really quite intense, and they do it in rounds, and people get eliminated each round, and they start having to wrap. Um, they do more like crazy objects. So like the first
Mhm.
thing you had to wrap was an enormous rubber ducky,
Oh, yeah.
and then the next thing you had to wrap was a bike, and then the last thing you had to wrap was like a giant model airplane. And they don't give them boxes or out of things in creative ways, and so it's really interesting. That is a very different. I once wrapped a bike, but I just sort of put paper around it, put a bow
Yeah.
on top, because it's like there's no way I'm going to make this look not like a bike. So
Right.
yeah, but
Wow.
I did that for my husband too, and so he knew he was getting a bike. But
Right.
I also they had a gift wrapping competition show, like a Top Chef or a Project Runway. It was called Rap Battle, and it was on a couple of years ago, and I auditioned to be on that. But it was when I was living in London already, and we were talking with the producers, and they seemed really into me. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I live in London," and they would have had to fly me to LA, and so they were like, "Oh, never mind."
Oh, yeah. Wasn't
Oh
meant to
well.
be.
I know.
But it would have been cool. I think that is amazing. Like, because then that's like two of your passions, like gift wrapping and reality TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just love gift wrapping. And it's nice that people always come to me if they want something wrapped for somebody special or for a special occasion. And I have a giant Tupperware thing full of all these different wrapping papers. I collect wrapping papers. I always look, especially in museums or when I go traveling, looking for different kind of papers that'll have a special meaning or really cool different things.
Yeah.
And so I have tons of supplies around the house. And I remember hearing about Candy
I
Spelling,
was going to
Aaron
say,
Spelling's wife. Yeah, wrapping paper room. And as a younger person being like, who wants a wrapping paper room? That's crazy. And now all I want in my house is a wrapping paper room.
that is so funny, Brian. We're so on the same page because that was my next question. I was going to say, have you heard Candy Spelling has a wrapping room, and would you ever like a wrapping room? And you just
Uh,
answered my question before I even could say it. So
and
this,
so I guess Tori Spelling also has a wrapping
oh
paper
my
room. And I
gosh,
have a friend who worked with her. And I was like, can you get us invited to the wrapping paper room? I want to
yeah,
go to the Tori Spelling wrapping paper room. That's dream come true. Dream come true.
yes. What would your wrapping paper room look like? What would be the vibe?
I think, well, I like generally in terms of decorating and life, I like very bright, very campy,
Mm-hmm.
like early Pedro Almodovar movies, like
Yes.
lots of craziness. And so I think that there'd be like lots of fun art on the walls and, lots of patterns and prints like wrapping paper. And of course, there would be a giant table, adjustable in case I want to stand up or sit down, but like
Brilliant.
enough room to wrap a present on it. And, I have lots of gadgets for gift wrapping, like cutters and scissors and ribbon tires.
Yeah.
So places for all that. So I think it would look like a crafting room, but gift wrapping
Yeah.
oriented. So lots of boxes. Every time I get something in a box, I keep it. I just have tons of random empty boxes, small, big,
Yeah.
medium, whatever. You never know when you're going to need a box and what's going to fit in it. And yeah, so I'm always thinking about how I can better wrap things.
That is so fun. Like, I just imagine you receiving something maybe for to wrap for a friend, and you like strategizing, how am I going to wrap this? And like, do you put a lot of thought? Well, backstory, I can't wrap anything for my life because it's one of those things my mom's really good at. So she
Yep.
just did it, so I didn't have to. And so I never learned. And even still,
Mhm.
if I go to a wedding or anything, any gift wrap, I throw stuff in bags. And if I'm going to somewhere nice, my mom does it. And she'll put like raffia or like,
Right.
beaded flowers, and it looks beautiful. But she always thinks like, okay, well, this is what's inside. So I'm going to do the color, this color, like this color wrapping paper, and this bow with this color. It's like she put so much thought into it. Do you get that deep, or how do you base your wrapping style?
Well, usually if I'm doing it like for somebody, I just kind of do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I will like take the person I'm giving it to into account, like
Mm-hmm.
what I think their design style is like. So I have a friend who, is he's a graphic designer, but he likes very
Oh, yeah.
minimalist aesthetic. So it'll, like I did a present for him and it was a book. And so I wrapped it in black paper and then I put just like one white ribbon and I sort of gave it a little turn in it so it made like an L shape and I double-sided taped that onto the present. So it looked very sleek, very minimal. So I'll
Yeah.
take the person's
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic into account. But also like your mom, I'll think about what's inside. Okay, if it's a red shirt, maybe we'll do red on the outside or something to match, make it all a cohesive unit.
Totally.
Um, but if I'm doing something for a friend, I'll ask like, who's the person you're giving it to? What do you want to look like? Like if it's a man, maybe it'll look a little bit more masculine. If it's a woman, maybe a little bit more feminine. If it's somebody who's into, you know, professional wrestling, maybe I'll find
Yeah.
some professional wrestling magazine or, I like to use, like posters or, kind of crazy things that
Yeah.
will look different. And yeah, and you're always taking into account the size. Like if
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're doing a really small present, it's nice to do a print that's like lots of little details because then you're gonna, that you only have a small space to work with. As opposed to if you're doing something big, you can do a bigger print or you can do more things with paper on top and different layers and ribbons and things like that. So I try to think about the size and all of those things. And I also just I do like to strategize. I'll especially kind of choose some different papers. And then I like to just kind of go with the flow and be like, oh, what if I do this? I can make this crazy shape. Or if I pleat this like an accordion, I can kind of get it to stand up a little bit and that'll give it another dimension to it. And and sometimes those things work and sometimes they look dumb.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, no, I'll start over. But yeah, I just like to have fun and just do like crazy stuff and see what works. And then I have a few other um, tricks that I like to trot out over and over again. Like I learned how to make origami bows, so I'll make like a
Ooh.
giant paper bow, and like those are fun because then you can take it off the present, you could use it on something else and keep
Yeah.
it, and so do different things like that.
Wow. What I'm basically hearing is you put so much care into your gift wrap, which is also a gift and a
Yes.
talent. And would you say that gift giving is like your quote unquote love language? Because I feel like gift wrap is your love language.
I like I am a people pleaser. I'm a middle child, so I'm like
Mm-hmm.
a consensus builder type.
Feel that.
And I like to make people happy, and so I do like to give gifts. I like to give very thoughtful gifts, but then I also like to show that not only did I put in effort uh, coming up with this gift, thinking about this gift, buying this gift, making this gift, whatever it is, I also put a lot of thought and effort into packaging it for you and giving it to you. And now it's gotten to the point where people kind of expect it from me. So sometimes
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I don't have much time, but I have to pull something out real quick to,
totally.
because if I just wrapped it normally, people would be like, oh, great, thanks.
Yeah.
So, I've set a high bar for myself.
So where do you think this need to please comes? I'm totally kidding. I'm not going to do that. I'm just messing with you. No, I feel very similarly. I'm obsessed with cards, and I get cards from
Yeah.
Etsy for everyone. And like my favorite thing is 3 months before a birthday, I will be in bed. Roni season 3 is like playing in the background. I'm scrolling on Etsy looking for the perfect card, and it's genuinely
Yes.
3 months in advance because it'll be like I'll have one birthday coming up and then I'll be like, I'll just do the first 6 months of the year. And now I sort of have this reputation of finding the perfect card. And it's like year after year, it gets harder to like one up
Yes.
yourself. And I feel,
Yes.
yeah, I feel like you would be able to relate to that.
No, absolutely. And I do that with cards too. Like if I find a cool card store that I like, I'll just go and buy a ton of cards. And
Yeah.
so I have like a paper bag full of just cards. So
Hmm.
whenever I need a card, it's like, okay, which one of these is right for this person? Like go find a
Yeah.
good card. Always have cards on hand. My grandmother was renowned. She had this calendar, and almost every day in the calendar, she would write in like people's birthdays, anniversaries, like she would send cards to everything. And it was like every day she was sending a new card for somebody. And so, and whenever you go to the drugstore with her, she'd always go and look at the cards and buy a few and always have them on hand. So I think I got that from her. And
Yeah.
yes, and now we don't have, too much occasion to send cards anymore, which is sad.
Right.
It's happy you wrap a nice present.
Yeah, totally. I feel like we don't really get mail. Like everything's so
No.
digital. So it is nice to send a paper card. And
Totally, yes. And
yeah.
whenever anybody does now and you get a handwritten note, it's like so much effort and they ask for your
Yeah.
address and whatever. It's so nice to get something like that. I think that's what people really appreciate. It's just the extra thought, the extra effort going a little bit further than
Yeah.
just, oh, here's a present. I didn't have time to wrap it.
Totally. I think it is just like it's just such a nice thing to do for someone. Can you think
Yeah.
of any gifts that you got as a child that were wrapped like really exceptionally? Anything fun or a wrapping paper that was on theme at the time?
Not really. So when I was a child, Santa Claus did not wrap presents because my mom like hated all the extra effort. And it's like they're already putting together bikes or whatever they're doing, finding
Yeah.
batteries for things. And so my parents would wrap us a present from them, but then most of the presents from quote unquote Santa would just be under the tree.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I don't think that there was a ton of rapping growing up, but yeah, I just got into it because it was like this challenge that my friend did. And I
Totally.
remember having a friend in high school and she was really meticulous about everything and
Hmm.
she wrapped presents really well. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's really cool. I wish I could do that. And so
Yeah.
um now I'm there. And now I look on YouTube, I'll be watching videos, I'll be looking for stuff on TikTok, on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for new ideas. Or if you go to Diptyque, the candle store, they do
Hmm.
this really cool technique with tissue paper where they use like three different colors of tissue paper and make this like kind of uh like multicolored effect. And I went in one day and I said to the girl working there, I was like, show me how you do this. Like,
Yeah.
I want a class, I want to be able to do this. Or I'll like just see something and be like, oh, it'd be cool to base wrapping on that and take pictures. And so I'm always kind of thinking, and but it's mostly around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So especially in the lead up to Christmas, I'm always thinking about
Yeah, now I'm getting nervous. I'm like, geez, I got to get gifts and I got to figure out how to wrap them. Um,
it.
but it is fun. I know, like, maybe the night before Christmas Eve, I will find the bags that I'm going to throw stuff in and throw some tissue paper. But I always sort of set the tone. Like, I'll light a balsam candle and I'll put on like a a Christmas wrapping playlist on Spotify and just like really get into the zone, even though it takes me like 10 minutes because I'm just throwing stuff in bags. But do you
Yeah.
have any sort of ritual around like the holidays wrapping gifts?
Well, it's funny, the past few holidays we've been traveling a lot for
Mm,
Christmas. Go because we live in London and our family's in the US. So like last year we went to Santa Barbara where my partner's from, and it's hard to travel with wrapping paper because
yeah.
the tubes are long and I have all these supplies, and so I kind of brought a bunch of double-sided tape, which is the my like ultimate necessary tool for good wrapping.
Yeah.
And every I bought scotch tape and I borrowed a pair of scissors from the reception desk, but then I just bought a couple of good rolls of paper, and then I just used newspaper, and I was like, okay, what can I do with newspaper? And so I came up with all these different things, and I would cut little shapes out of all the different pictures, and so it's fun to get creative like that. But yeah, my partner loves it because it keeps me quiet for a long period of time. But usually I start a few days out and I'll have some ideas, and I'll sit and I'll start to do some of the things like books or candles, like things that are already in boxes.
Yeah.
And then I'll, work my way up to then finding boxes and things like that. But yeah, I like to put on a Christmas movie, a Hallmark movie, something
Mm-hmm.
like that in the background, sit down at the table, get all my supplies out so they're right there and I could just do everything. And yeah, I am a big Christmas person anyway, so being in that zone is a nice place to be. And so yeah, I try to give myself plenty of time so that I'm not rushing through it at the end. And because you can tell by the end of a long day, I get a little bit lazy. And I'm like, this will do. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's so relatable. I just have to
Yeah.
say, you put so much care into so many things you do, even just the emailing back and forth. You're so prompt. And I told you, I could tell you have like earth energy. And then you said you're a Taurus. And I was going to guess Virgo, but I was close. But I
Yeah.
think it's so nice just to have something that you are good at and then share it with others. I think that's a big theme of Pop of Passion is people love to share their passions because that's how we make
Yeah.
connections. And giving a gift is sort of the perfect way to do that.
Well, and I also think that it's not something a lot of people consider that much, that there's one way to
Mm,
wrap a present and it's really easy and here's how you do it. Whereas, if you bring some talent, some imagination to it, you can show people what's possible. And so it makes you stand out a little bit more, like, oh my God, Brian wraps the best presents. Like you
yeah.
don't say that about, a lot of people who are good singers or whatever,
Mm,
good cooks, but who's good at wrapping presents? Just this guy. So
yeah.
makes me a little special.
Totally. That is so lovely. I just love the idea of you like thinking about, okay, so I'm going to do this for this present and this for that present and really putting the care and time into it. And then you have a moment of like shared love with someone because that's what it's all about
Yeah.
giving gifts, you know? That's
Yeah.
that's it. So I have a pop pondering question for you. Um, so I usually like to ask guests a question that has the word pop in it.
Okay.
For you, I chose this. Pop culture obsessed, proudly LGBT plus owned online store that's iconic, sells wrapping paper featuring pop stars like Beyonce, Madonna, Ariana Grande, and two versions of Mariah Carey, one for everyday use and one for Christmas. If you could create a wrapping paper with any pop culture icon, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would make a divine wrapping
Mm,
paper from the John Waters movies, like
yeah.
particularly a pink flamingos,
Mm-hmm.
divine in a red dress with a fishtail on the bottom and a gun. That would be very Brian Moylan, like, gay, little uh, you know, indie
Yeah,
kind of
camp.
cool
Yeah,
and
cool.
bright. Yeah, can't the all my favorite things. I would love that. But I mean, also obviously, if somebody made um Real Housewives wrapping paper. I
Oh
think
my
that for
gosh.
certain my sister-in-law is super into Housewives. Like if wrapped her something with Housewives paper, it'd be like, hey, this is this thing we love together. And I think that would be really good. But Tama Finland, who's like a gay erotic artist, the Tama Finland Foundation makes Tama Finland wrapping paper. I'm a big fan of that because it's kind of
Wow.
like hot and dirty and gay.
Yeah.
Um, so I've ordered some of that too. I'm trying to think of other pop culture stuff, and there's a lot obviously of cartoons and things like that
Mm-hmm.
for kids, and so there's a lot of it. But I like to try to find things that the other person would like
Yeah.
rather than things that I would like
Right.
necessarily. But I'm a big comic book reader. So another
Mm-hmm.
one of my tricks is if I'm somewhere and I don't have any wrapping paper, you can just kind of tape a few pages of a comic book together and it's bright and colorful and cool. And
Yeah.
um, so, yeah. And especially if the person's a comic book fan, or a younger person, like one of my
Totally.
nieces or nephews, like they think that stuff's really cool. But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very good question. I
Thank
mean,
you.
you could go a million places with wrapping paper. There's also a
Yeah.
place where I forget what it's called, but you can they'll print wrapping paper based on your Instagram with your like Instagram pictures
Oh
and
my
stuff, or
gosh.
you can get like your selfies on wrapping paper, and they'll kind of print anything. So, I mean, the world's your oyster
I
out
feel
there.
like we need to go on Shark Tank and have like a adult, like pop culture themed wrapping paper business. I don't know. I just feel like there's a void in the market.
I went to Selfridges, the department store in
Mm-hmm.
London, a few years ago, and they had a personalized wrapping paper printer where you could get they kind of printed it in script in like rows, and names or things. And I was like, will you do like cock and balls, or will you do
Yeah.
fuck you, or you're a cunt? And they were
Yeah.
like, no, we can't do any of those. And I was like,
Ah,
oh well, that's boring. I was
that
like, oh,
is
you can have my
boring.
name, who cares? I want wrapping paper that says you're an asshole.
Yeah.
um
You're such a fucking
but
liar, Camille. Like, I'm
yeah,
thinking of like,
exactly.
you know, I think Shannon Bedore would be a great wrapping paper with like some 9 lemons in the bowl and like just her
I bet
face.
Shannon Bedore is a great gift wrapper
Oh, yeah.
herself. That seems like a skill Shannon Bedore would definitely have.
Absolutely. Who do you think of the
I bet
housewives was to be the worst? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I bet she had a wrapping paper room in that giant house she
I
had
think
with
she
David.
did too because she had a craft room for sure. So I
Yeah.
bet she had a wrapping paper like portion of the room.
Heather Dubrow, I bet, is also an excellent gift wrapper. The
Yeah.
worst gift wrapper. I feel like Kelly Dodd is potentially a
Mm,
bad gift wrapper.
yeah.
I feel like Sonia Morgan, anyone who's really chaotic, like it takes a
Yeah.
little bit of quieting your mind and a little
Hmm.
bit of creativity and a little bit of organization. So I think that all of those really like kind of crazy chaotic housewives types
Totally.
would not be great at it, would be my guess.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine a gift wrapped by, OG of New York, not Ramona, Alex McCord. Like, I feel like she would be good at it and she would bring something totally out left field because she's in Brooklyn.
And and
And not
she's
New
a
York.
graphic designer.
Oh,
So I feel like
yeah.
that, yeah, that would lend itself to some good gift wrap skills. That's a good shout. I wouldn't have thought of that, but yeah, it's always the ones that surprise you. I bet Kyle Richards doesn't wrap a good present, but I bet she knows exactly who to hire to
Oh,
wrap a good present,
yes. Yes.
which is an essential skill. You can hire me. I am available for all gift wrappings. Anyone wants to know, just come on by. If you're in
Yeah.
London, I'll do it.
That is so sweet. Okay, guys, everyone, Brian has offered to wrap all your gifts if you're in London. So just knock on his
Come on
door.
by. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Would you like to do your passion plug first, or do you want me to go first? We can plug
I'll go first.
Great,
Why
yeah,
not?
do it, please.
Obviously, you can go and buy my book, The
Mm-hmm.
Housewives, the real story behind the Real Housewives. You can buy it anywhere books are sold, or go to thehousewivesbook.com. You can also subscribe to my Housewives Institute bulletin newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks on Fridays. It is available at vulture.com/housewives. And I also want to plug an organization that I have done some fundraising for in the past, and I really love. It's called the Ali Forney Center, and it is the largest houser of homeless LGBTQ plus youth in America. And they have several shelters in New York, and they do really great work. B. Arthur from the Golden Girls left them $1 million in her will.
Nice.
So if it's B. Arthur approved, it should be
Yes.
good enough for us. And you can find them at Ali Forney, ALIFORNEY Center.org. And please donate. They do a big gift drive every year for Christmas for things for the kids in the homeless shelter. And so I'm sure they would appreciate your help at this time of year.
Yes, everyone, please go donate, get involved. My pop culture plug, or passion plug, goes to my friend Louie. He has been a major source of inspiration and support over the last decade. We've been friends so long. And he's actually featured in a holiday film, The Christmas Pitch, which will be available to stream beginning November 12th. Google The Christmas Pitch. That's P with a P as in passion. Louie would also like to plug Asada's Daughters, a Black women-led young person-directed organization rooted in the Black radical tradition. Asada's Daughters organize young Black people in Chicago by providing them with political education, leadership development, mentorship, and revolutionary services. You can visit asadasdaughters.org to learn how to get involved and donate if you're able. So I hope everyone can log on and get involved with these great organizations. Brian J Moylan, before we go, where can people follow you on the interwebs?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Brian J Moylan, and my Grindr handle is Mustache Rides if you want to say hi.
Love that. I got kicked off of Grindr in high school because I was, a woman, and I didn't realize I was like fetishizing gay men and trying to be friends with them. But don't worry, I took some, gender studies classes in college, and I figured that out. But that's the
she's in a good place now, ladies and gentlemen.
No, that's the only dating app I've ever been kicked off of, and it was very fair. So
I don't think I've ever been kicked off of a dating app, which I mean is shocking considering how I usually conduct myself. But
you must be doing something right, Brian.
I know, thank God.
Right. Well, thank you all for listening to Pop of Passion. Thank you, Brian J Moylan. Pop of Passion is produced by Christine Ferrera, live at the Lincoln Lodge. Please follow the show on social media at Pop of Passion and popofpassionpodcast.com. I'm Jax Barker. Go out and be the light, living your passion.